It's understood that Israel wants to push the people of Gaza into the Sinai desert, or at least they wanted to. They tried during the Trump era, and they have been speaking openly about it now. We know Egypt has $162 billion in debt. There have been suggestions that the US and Israel would help arrange to have that debt wiped or reduced somehow. Can you talk to us about Egypt's position in this current situation and what their interests are?
Sisi is aware that if he opens that border and the Palestinians come rushing through and they set up in the Sinai desert in refugee camps, he knows that Israel will never allow them to return to Gaza again. He's also aware he will go down in history as being considered a collaborator who helped with the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Sisi knows that categorically he cannot help to facilitate the Palestinians leaving Gaza. Of course, I say that. The stories of the borders are that if you pay $9,000 to the Egyptians on the border, you can cross. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Sisi is telling them to take those bribes. I think it just shows the state of affairs in Egypt where you can bypass everything by paying bribes. When Blinken went to visit Sisi, if you remember his first visit to Tel Aviv, and then he was supposed to go back to Washington, then he went back to Saudi Arabia, and he went to Saudi Arabia, he got the fatwa, don't talk about Gaza because it's a fitna. He went to UAE, he got a statement condemning the Palestinians. But when he went to Egypt, expecting the same sort of response that he got from Saudi and the UAE, he got the opposite. Sisi turned on the camera and lambasted Blinken for 45 minutes. Tell him, what do you mean you came to Tel Aviv? You said, I'm here as a Jew. We never persecuted the Jews here. That's something unique to you Europeans. Touche to whatever you think of Sisi, it was a decent speech. Not only that, when Blinken suggested that they open the border and take in the Palestinians, Sami Shukri, the foreign minister, the Financial Times reported that Sami Shukri had told someone privately, or told the gathering privately, that if they force us to take the Palestinians, we'll load the Palestinians on boats and send them straight to Europe. Like, we won't be forced into this. When Blinken went back to Washington, Blinken seemed to have interpreted it as a money issue. And that's where the rumors came out that the US might forgive some debt or ease the debt. In reality, what happened was Biden on the 20th of October proposed to Congress a $14 billion bill in which that money would be given to Egypt and Jordan in order to facilitate funding those tents for the Palestinians. But on the 28th of October, Biden came out and said, we no longer support the displacement of the Palestinians. And I thought Biden was lying because he lied about the beheaded babies. But John Kirby confirmed it the next day. The reason being is that Sisi dug his heels in. He made it absolutely clear, I'm not willing to take in like those Palestinians and come across the border. Sisi has a problem in that he doesn't enjoy popular support. He has an economic crisis on his hands, and Egypt is boiling. Like, the people are boiling. There was a video, I think, of an Egyptian guy walking through a hayy, like an area, like where apartment blocks are. And he's saying, yeah, Ibadallah, like there's a genocide taking place in Gaza right across the border, and we can't do anything like them. And everybody's crying around him, like coming out the windows. Like, you could feel like people are very angry. Sisi's issue is that economically, none of his mega projects have worked. He did an early election because he knows he has to devalue the Egyptian pound, which is going to make things even harder for ordinary Egyptians, but it's a requirement in order to seek external help for his economy. The interesting thing is, why did he have to do an early election if he was completely in power? He did the early election so that no rival of his can use the election as a means to topple him later when he devalues the pound and the people decide to protest or riot, which shows that Sisi believes, that election showed that Sisi believes he's not in complete control as he would like to be. So that was a betrayal of weakness. Sisi believes that he's being treated unfairly by the Israelis and the Americans, that he helped them to blockade Gaza. He helped them with intelligence efforts. He helped them to contain Hamas. He helped them to contain the Palestinian people. He collaborated and worked with them on security and the like. He was a good friend to them. There was a Wall Street Journal article in 2015, I think I remember, where Israeli officials complained to the Americans and they said Sisi is too eager to squeeze the Palestinians. If he keeps going the way he is, they're going to explode and he's going to bring a war on us. I tell Sisi, calm down, don't be so excited. Like Mubarak used to close the border and leave the tunnels. This guy's flooding the tunnels as well. Like come on, give him a bit of air to breathe. We're squeezing on this side, give them some air. I think Sisi feels like he's not being appreciated by the Americans or the Israelis. Having said that, the interesting thing is it has pushed Sisi to develop closer ties with Hamas, because that gives him leverage as a mediator to talk to them. And I think Sisi's in an awkward position whereby when he thought that maybe Palestine might give him popular legitimacy, remember he allowed protests for the first time since 2013 or 2014. He lifted the restrictions. He was hoping that the people would protest for Palestine. He knew it was a gamble. He was worried that people would take to the streets in huge numbers for Palestine, but then go to Maidan al-Tahrir and they would protest against him instead, which is what happened. People protested for Palestine, and then like a group of them went to Tahrir Square. He went, okay. Like it's clear, like the people are not with me. If I allow them to protest for Palestine, they will come and protest against me instead, and they will topple me instead. And that's why Sisi is in this very awkward situation whereby he keeps saying to Egyptian people, be grateful for what you have, be grateful you're not Gaza, be great. He went to Somalia next to the Somalian, president. And the Somalian president said, thank you for your cooperation. And in front of the Somalian president, he speaks to the camera and he says, to my Egyptian people, I send you a message. Somalia fell into chaos in 91, 92, and they've never recovered since. They're always in chaos. Like, he's offending the Somalis. He's like, he goes, do you want to be like that? Like, he's like, you need to like appreciate me. Like, no, it's really like, when you read it, you're like, wow. Like, but Sisi feels isolated from his people, from the Americans, from the Israelis, from the UAE, which is bullying him in Sudan. Bin Zayed went to visit Egypt 3 days before Sudan plunged into war. And what was fascinating is that none of us could understand why UAE, why Bin Zayed went to Sisi, because they were arguing over economic like investments and stuff like that. And then 3 days later, the war begins, and the UAE's, UAE-backed militia in Sudan, they detain 80 Egyptian soldiers in Marawi airport in Khartoum, which is humiliating for Sisi. And everybody knows it's the UAE that have held them hostage to strong-arm Sisi into not intervening to rescue the general who they support. So Egypt is with the general, and UAE is with the militia trying to topple the general. Sisi is in such an awkward position that when the 80 soldiers were released, the Egyptian statement thanked the UAE. Like, thank the UAE, which orchestrated, but thank the UAE for releasing those hostages, to show you how Sisi feels like he's not in a position to mobilize anyway. And that's why I think that, to sum up Sisi, it's not that he cares about Palestinians or Gaza. Like, Sisi feels like, I invested so much with the Israelis and Americans, and now look how they're treating me. UAE and Saudi are no longer investing in me because they invested like more than 30 billion like over the past like 10 years. They received nothing, and they're openly saying that they won't invest in me anymore unless the army gives up some of its control over the economy. And if I tell the army to give up some of its control over the economy, they might lash out at me and replace me. So Sisi looks right, he has trouble. Looks left, he has trouble. Looks up, he has trouble. Looks down, and he has no idea what to do except go on TV and tell the Egyptian people, Egyptians, please understand that we're in a difficult position, but you need to appreciate me because I will guide you out of this position. And at this moment, his only leverage is communications with Hummus and the hope that somehow he will. Even now, the Israelis they're sending troops, so aid when it goes into Gaza, it goes past the Egyptian border, but then it has to be inspected by the Israelis, who are right on his border with Rafah. Like, it's humiliating for an Egyptian army that the Israelis are there, and on the Egyptian side, they're the ones controlling the border. But it also speaks volumes as to Sisi's weakness, that he's unable to actually do anything. Having said that, he might have a potential outlet. There's reports that he might meet Sisi. And that Turkey and Egypt might cooperate together on economic projects or the like. And Erdogan is reaching out to Sisi to say, I know you're isolated as well. Maybe we can work together on multiple projects. Where that goes, who knows? But yeah, Sisi is in a very difficult position.
Trust nothing. No laws.